All right. We'll get things started here. I am pleased to be joined by Lydia Ko. For those on the Zoom chat, if you please let me know in the chat function, we'll be sure to call on you in a bit if you have a question. But I want to kick things off. The first event of the year. How are you feeling going into the 2024 season?
Yeah, I would say it's a pretty short and quick turnaround since Grant Thornton. That's a lot later in the year that we are used to playing, in the calendar. And then obviously this one is, right after New Year's, and you feel like, okay, do I have more time? And it's like 2 weeks in, so you're trying to prepare. But in a way, it's nice that the first one's a home game. I can pretty much roll out of bed and be here. I rode my own cart during the Pro-Am today because we were allowed to have carts. And it's a great start to the season. And I think it's a fun way to start the season where it's a little bit more light and you're getting to meet people that aren't necessarily in your industry. And I'm excited and hopefully a little warmer weather the next few days.
What was it like kind of prioritizing how you were going to get ready for this season with that short turnaround that you had after an incredible performance with Jason Day in Naples?
Yeah, I think the 3 weeks that I had off before Grant Thornton was like a mini off season there as well. Obviously gutted that I didn't play myself into CME, but it was also an extra week for me to kind of relax and in ways just see on TV and on YouTube the highlights of the girls playing. But that was in a way like a longer off season with just one tournament to kind of split it into two. But you have to play with what you get. For both Grant Thornton and here, it's not like you're automatically in, and just because you want to play, you can play. That's an invitational, and this one you have to win in the last couple of years to be able to play. So that opportunity is not there for everyone, and you might not be able to play every year. So I'm grateful to be able to be back. And last year I opted to go on my honeymoon, which was obviously no regrets, and that was exciting. But great to be back and play in front of our members as well.
All right, we'll open it up down here in front. Go for it, Beth Ann.
Hi. So obviously you have a house here, but how often are you here now? I know you spend a lot of time in California now.
I've actually been here the last 2-ish months. The only time that I was away was for like 10-ish days when I was in Asia back in Korea. But other than that, I've been spending a lot of time here, and I'm planning to spend time here after Bradenton as well. So just kind of going with the schedule. Sometimes if we're in between like Asia and then California, then maybe it's better to stay out that way. But if I'm in between two New Jersey events, obviously I'm not gonna go all the way over and come back on the East Coast. So nice to kind of have options of 2 great golf courses, 3 great golf courses to practice out on this way and that way. But yeah, I've been spending a lot of time here, and it's been great to go out and play with some of the girls. Last week, Leona, Lindy, and NASA, we played a few days, and trying to get a good preparation into the event and how we're gonna play this hole. And I guess normally when you play throughout the year, you don't really think of it in that strategic way because you're just playing like your home course. But because we know where the tees are going to be and approximately where the pin positions are, we're like, okay, would you hit driver here, 3-wood? And so I think there's a little bit more thought into like the preparation of this event. But yeah, it's been good to spend the cooler, warmer parts here these past few months.
What are your courses in California?
I was able to get an honorary membership at Lake Merced, having won there, and I also practice out at the Olympic Club there, and they're super close to each other, and when I'm over there, we're not that far away from there, so it's really convenient. And I mean, they're both championship golf courses, so I've loved being there when I'm there. And then here we all know how top class it is out here as well, so I think I'm very grateful that I can practice no matter where I am, practice without having to worry about the facilities and the environment.
Amy?
Lydia, what do you feel like getting that win at the end of the year did for you and for your game that you can carry over into this new season?
It was like such a fun event that week. To be honest, I played the practice round with Jason on Tuesday, and I played so bad that I was like, oh, I should have just had a longer off season. Because, I wanted to like do our tour proud, and, obviously some of the PGA Tour players, like we've met, I'm sure the players have met before, and some are completely new. So I wanted to be like one of the 16 players that are like, hey, like the LPGA players are really good. Like their swings are good, or they hit it so much further than we thought. And I played on Tuesday, and I was like, oh my God, I'm embarrassing myself. And then luckily on Friday onwards, I played better, and Jason was obviously the best partner to be out there with. He's so nice, and obviously he's so good that I think all of the players I played with, I learned a lot, and to just see like how they can hit these shots was super cool. But for me, it wasn't the season that I had envisioned going into 2023, but I had a really good start and a really good end. And, in ways I joke, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done it in the middle, but I think all those like weeks and those ups and downs are what brings the results in the end. And I'm hoping that that's good momentum going into this year.
How much did your work and starting to work with Seon Hwa Lee, did that impact, or was that a contributor to your success that we saw at Grant Thornton?
I think it's just progressing. Sometimes, like the things that we're working on, like I do a really good job of it, and then sometimes he's having to tell me the same things like over and over again. And I think we all have our habits and comfortable things that we always go back to, and those tendencies are probably something that I've had even when I was like 12. So, and I'm probably gonna have that when I'm 32 and retired at 52 playing golf, like still same kind of tendencies. So it's just, I got to keep working on it. And I think, we're just trying to flush it out a little by little. And it's been very different because I've never really worked with a coach that's outside of the U.S. before, and I'm here, so it's we're trying to make it work. And even on Monday we did a FaceTime lesson, and I feel like we're moving in the right direction, and he keeps it simple and not new ways to fix, I guess, the problems every time.
How often are you able to meet in person, or when was the last time you guys were actually together?
When I was in Korea for a week, I saw him a couple times after Grant Thornton, and then he was here with me for a week prior to Grant Thornton. He came over, and I think the next time I'm going to see him is in February, so it's a whole couple months from the last time I saw him till the next time. But we've been doing as much as we can with the time differences, doing FaceTime lessons. So I'm glad that I live in an era where technology is helping us, and we can use that to our advantage.
And last one for me, just what attracted you to him and wanting to work together?
I've actually had like pointers from him before, even it's weird to say last year, but it's actually like 2022. I had a few pointers from him, and even in September, I got a pointers from him as well. And he's had a lot of success with not only Jin Jeong but other KLPGA players as well, and also Tom Kim on the PGA Tour. And before I saw him, my mom and I saw a lot of his YouTube live lessons. So sometimes I'll watch that, and then I'll call him or text him and be like, you said that in that lesson, like, does that work for me too? And he's like, yeah, it actually does, or no, that's not for you. So it's kind of nice that he's somebody that's out there, and you can kind of source information and get his lessons, even though I'm not getting the direct lesson. But it's just, I think, trying to figure it out. Obviously, I don't want to go too long without having seen him, because it is different, and some things you just can't catch on video. But no, Jin Young's made it work, so I'm gonna try and go that way, and I think it's a way for me to also become more independent and take ownership of my swing and my work, the work that I put in. So it's been good. I think. In ways I do try and get reliant and get worried that I can't see him, but I think I just have to get past that phase as well.
Brentley?
So are you like waking up super, super early or maybe practicing later in the afternoon to try to match up with the time difference a little bit better? Or
He's right now in Vietnam at their winter camp. So I think it's 12-hour difference here. My earliest lesson is like 8 a.m. I'm not waking up at 6 for a 7 a.m. lesson. But so I've done an 8 a.m. lesson or a 4 p.m. He's kind of been more flexible with his time, and he said he'd rather it late or super early, like at 4 a.m. because at 5 or 6, that's when the players that are in Vietnam, that's when they start training and getting ready. So I thought 6 a.m. would be good, and he said no, let's do earlier, 4 or 5. So it works out better for me. And sometimes I wonder if he even sleeps. Yeah.
Probably. Now, do you notice that having a swing coach so far away, has that these past little bit given you maybe more kind of agency over your own swing to kind of maybe you just have your eyeballs on it and maybe being more responsible for fixing things every now and then and not having someone continually there just looking at you all the time?
Yeah, I think we've tried to keep it simple. Obviously, there's a few drills that he's given me over the past couple months, but a few days ago, I said, hey, what are the 2 drills that you think I should do? And then he would send me a video of how to do those 2 drills, and just to make sure that's engraved in my head and I'm doing it properly. And when the last time he was here, my trainer was here as well, so we could all kind of sit together, and then Siwoo explain, hey, these are things that we're working on in the swing, and maybe this may be I may have this tendency because of this kind of weakness. So we're all on the same page, which is really good. And I normally don't do a lot of practice swings and all that. I like to hit the ball and kind of get it done. But Siwoo, I think, really emphasizes doing a lot of practice swings, because that's obviously engraving and putting one extra repetition without you actually hitting a golf ball. And so I've been doing that a little bit more often. And in some ways, I think, yeah, I have been trying to take more ownership of what I'm doing and what I'm working on, but then not making it too complicated either. And some days I'm gonna hit it better than other days, and I take swing videos and just send it to him, and it's just really easy feedback. I took one this morning and sent it to him, so it's just, I think it's a lot simpler than I would have imagined it to be. So in ways, I'm realizing, and I think I overcomplicated it for myself at times.
Was there something you picked up at Grant Thornton in your game that maybe gives you confidence going into 2024?
I can only compare myself to that Tuesday, because I remember I texted Siwoo and I was I'm hitting every shot apart from straight, so or apart from at my target, and then so I sent him some swings, but then even then we did nothing new. It was what some of my tendencies he said prior, that was happening, and it was also around that time of the month, and I was oh no, I'm playing with Jason, and I've got it's the time where my rhythm is all over the show. But it was I think over Wednesday and Thursday, because it was a Friday start, I was able to just kind of flesh a little bit by little bit. And sometimes I think it is important that you play in a competitive situation to be able to trust and know that what you're working on does work. And I feel I hit some really good shots coming down the stretch, and I think that gave me the confidence to say, hey, I'm going in the right direction, and I just got to keep working on it. And I'm having I think I'm learning a little bit now and understanding that some days it's not going to be perfect, and sometimes I chase like 14 fairways, 18 green and regulations, but golf is not about a picture perfect scorecard.
Beth Ann?
A big year with the Olympics. How will you tailor your schedule to peak for the big things?
Yeah, I think as of now, I'm playing Evian and then taking a few weeks off before the Olympics. Obviously, there's a few tournaments that I would love to play, but just logistically, you kind of have to weigh your options. The Olympics is very important for me, and to be able to represent your country. And it's been, the 2 weeks that I was there in Rio and in Tokyo was like some of the best weeks of my life. And I think second place and third place, normally you'd be like, oh, it was a good week, but you don't talk about it. But it's pretty cool when you get a medal for coming second and third. And I think that's the great thing about the Olympics. Like, every player that's there, every Olympian is that's there is something to celebrate, and that's a win itself. And to say that I'm an Olympian, that's crazy. I joke that sometimes I'm not an athlete, but I'm an Olympian. So it's just, I'm super excited for Paris, and LA is another 5 years from now. So I don't know if I will still be playing by the time LA comes around. So I'm thinking maybe this might be the last hurrah, and if fairy tale ending to that would be collect every color of the medal. But no, I'm excited, and to be able to represent New Zealand on any day is something that I'm very honored and grateful for.
And then just what's a sweet spot for the number of events that you play? What have you learned over the years in terms of a good number?
I think I've played from my rookie year playing 25 to 27 to obviously COVID year, you can't really count that. But the year after was when I started playing 20, 21. And last year I was trying to have a schedule similar to that, but because I was trying to get as many CME points and try and play myself into CME, I added a few tournaments here and there that necessarily wasn't on my schedule at the start of the year. But this year, I don't know if it's the way everything is constructed. I'm playing a lot more events than I'm playing almost similar amount of events as when I was a rookie. I was I want to play these, and I was it's 25. Yeah. So I think I'm just gonna go with the flow and not be too rigid. Obviously, have a good idea of what other events I want to play, and just kind of take the Olympics and obviously the majors and making sure that I'm fresh. But at the same time, you don't want to come in with too big of a gap, because I do think playing your way into things is just as important. But yeah, it's I said if I win twice early in there, I might not play the 25, and it might be a little bit less. But I want to give myself as many opportunities as I can, and I think being in the Hall of Fame was not really a big goal of mine, but 2022 was a gift of a year that in 1 year I got 5 points, and I was whoa, how did that happen? And now I'm at the front door, and whether it happens or not, that's secondary, but I don't want the regret of thinking that I left something behind. I want to put my 100% in it, whether it's my practice or my scheduling. And then if it happens, that's great. And if it doesn't happen, it's just not meant to be. But I think that's just kind of been my the mindset that I've tried to take on from this year, especially onwards. Yeah.
And then we'll go to the Zoom quick. Kent and then Edgar. So Kent, if you could please unmute, please.
I look really warm in the screen.
You do. Lydia, you talked about at the very beginning how short of a turnaround this was from last year to this year. What's the challenge of having such a short off season and rolling right into the next year?
In ways, I think it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Because you don't have a super long time since you last played, and luckily the last time I played it was good, that you feel like that momentum could potentially still be there. But in ways you think, okay, you play from January to November or December now, and even though you may play 20, or some players might play 30 events or less, you are still, even like the off weeks aren't really off weeks. Like you're still practicing and you're not getting like the full recovery as much as you want. And for me, ever since I turned pro, I always took like minimum 2 weeks, like 2 to 4 weeks off, completely not touching my clubs, and then like practice for another 3-4 weeks and getting into the season. So our schedules have changed. We've had some great additions to our schedule, and obviously I'm grateful for this event to be on. But you do feel like you could have had maybe a little bit more time to rest, and also a little bit more time to, I guess, practice. But in some ways you just got to get this season started, and that way you're able to know, like, hey, these are things that I need to work on, or I think I need to rest for a little bit more. So these next 2 weeks, I think, are a good gauge, and we all have a few weeks off in between Florida to Asia. So I think that's going to be another mini off season as well.
You talked about the middle of last year. Are there any lessons that you learned going through that stretch last year that you're trying to apply this year?
I think last year I really thought like my long game was the issue, and I mean, it is true that for a couple weeks that I was really struggling with that. But I think because I thought that my long game was a big problem, I spent a lot of time practicing that, and I spent less time in my short game. But when I looked at my stats, my driving stats hasn't been that great the last few years, even when I've won 3 times in a year or I've not won. And, obviously the more fairways I hit and the more greens I hit, that's going to give myself as many birdie opportunities as possible. But sometimes it's just not that. And like I said earlier, it's not about like being perfect. Sometimes you're going to be in the rough and you create a shot that's like better than maybe if you were in the middle of the fairway. So I got caught up on sometimes the wrong things, and I think I sometimes need to take a step back and really assess where I'm at and what are the things I really need to work on. And short game was definitely an aspect. So I'm trying to not get too caught up in like one area, and I think that way just kind of, you always need a balanced scale. Like, you don't want the seesaw going like one heavily to the other side.
Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you, Kent. And we will wrap with one question from Edgar. Oh, Edgar, if you could please unmute yourself. There we go.
Sorry. Thanks for all the time today. Lydia, so I was looking back at 10 years ago even. I mean, you've been on the scene a long time. What do you see with the state of American women's golf right now? I mean, you've seen a lot of changing of the guard, ups and downs. Where do you see there's the world number ones American? You got someone like Rose coming on the scene, some other ones breaking out. What do you think?
Probably you guys have like gone through the statistics, so know like numbers and exact things more than me. I am very lucky to be able to play alongside the best female golfers week in, week out. I think there's just so much talent here, and a lot of the guys even at Grant Thornton were talking about like how impressive like each and every one of the players here. So I think just golf in general and women's golf is at a very high point. I think when I first came on tour, I think I've been lucky where I came on tour at such a young age that I feel like I'm in between like 2 to 3 generations and not like one generation. A lot of the people that were on tour while I was playing are like have babies or retired. So I'm like, is it time for me to go? But it's, I think it's great to see that like as a competitor, like you're playing and you're not sure if the world number one Lilia Vu's gonna win, or it might be a name that we are not as familiar with. And I think that's just the name of the game, that it's like golf, you just never know who's going to win, but we're definitely seeing a bigger variety of players. And obviously there's a lot of American players that are playing really well, and sometimes well doesn't necessarily mean, okay, like they're winning multiple times, putting themselves in contention a lot. So I think golf is in a great state. And obviously because it is an Olympic year, it's going to be the battle till the deadline of like how many players within the top 15 obviously are going to get in. And I feel lucky that I don't have to worry about that as much personally. But I do hope that I do have a fellow Kiwi that can represent New Zealand, but that's a sidetrack. But yeah, I think that just shows how exciting it is. And I think women's golf is going to keep growing, and it's not only just Americans, but just all over. And I think you're seeing a much bigger variety of players. And I think this is only the start, and it's going to just keep building and building.
Thank you for your answer.
And thank you for joining us, Lids. Have a good one. We'll have Rose Zhang in shortly.